Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Welcome to another 2023 Project Orchids video. We're in the final round of videos now for each of the 8 orchids. Today is orchid number 2, which is a Renanthera imschootiana, species Renanthera. And the format will be, for the rest of these and the first one that we did last Friday, will basically be bringing forward video 1, 2, 3 and 4. Edited highlights from those videos will now play in succession and will be followed by video 5, which I will film now, and that will go on the end, which will be this is what the plant ended up like at the end of the growing season, so as in October 2023. So let's get going. Okay, so this is orchid number 2. This is a Renanthera, and it's Renanthera imschootiana. And out of all the Renantheras, this is probably one of the rarest in the wild. It hasn't got such a wide distribution as the others. It comes from the Assam area, and then it's central and southern China, Myanmar, and down through Laos and Vietnam. So sort of around the edges of that large amount of land south of China. It's classed as rare and endangered in the wild, and it's on CITES list 1, I believe, which means all trade should cease. So why did I buy it then? Well, first of all, I didn't know at the time, but quite honestly, with things on the endangered list, you're as guilty buying it as the people selling it, but it's the people collecting them and exporting them that want, I'll say shooting, but that's probably too good for them. Now I'm going to try and get this out of here by threading these good roots back through that hole and pulling on the plant, and hopefully they will come out without breaking. I think they will. Now this has recently been watered, which is why it's very wet. Gently, there we go. Right, so we've got some roots to work with. Over the other side here, not much. So this was potted up in a mix of bark and moss. But unfortunately, when it was potted up like that, most of the roots were outside of the basket. As in, like this. This is a good set of roots. This needs to be hydrated. When I pour water over this, these don't hydrate. They need moisture around them for longer. So what I'm hoping to do is get rid of that for a start. We won't be using that. And the junk that goes with it. Now, out of all the Renantheras, this is the one that's most temperature tolerant and is found at some quite reasonable elevations. And it can get quite cold at night, which was why I chose it. I thought, well, at least it's got a chance of surviving. This root is rotten, so that's got to come off. However, there are bits showing on here that might sprout out, so I'm only going to take it back to there. Right, so we have got roots. We've got these 2 big aerial roots that again are a nuisance because they don't hydrate by pouring water on them any sense. Now the idea is, what we're going to do with this is we're going to put it in there, and then we're going to put a lot of moss in here, a lot, so that this has got a very large amount of moss that's sitting in a tray. The tray can have water put in it, which will wick up through the moss, and then hopefully hydrate these roots, but still maintaining some air around them, because if they stay wet too long they will go soggy and then they will not work. So the idea is to just get this to sit in here with these roots in the moss. So I want it to, it'll have to go on the edge like that, so that the plant's got something to rest on so that it can grow on. And these roots will have some moss over the top of them. Again, it's loosely placed, it's not getting packed down at all, so there is air in round there as well, but I'm hoping that this moss will wick. And then the idea of placing it in that tray is I've got a water reservoir to keep the moss hydrated. The moss will also provide humidity around the plant. Now, it's not going to be directly around the plant, but the humidity will be in the area. So I'm hoping that will help as well. Now, these are often found in sort of ravines and gullies where the humidity would be quite high, but not necessarily high temperatures. And they can, as I said, they can get quite cool at night. So this one should be okay in here, but it's not going to stay in here. This is going to go up on the windowsill in the bathroom, where it gets better light and does not drop down so cold at night, because it's in the house obviously. And I'm going to give it a try in there. The light in the bathroom is quite intense, simply because it's on a windowsill that faces south, but it's got patterned glass, so it's not like direct sun, and it's also got a slatted blind. So that's how I'm going to try growing it now. I might even... Will you bend without breaking? Yes. So we've now got another root that can hydrate from the base. I'd be pushing my luck if that one would bend. Do you know, I think it will. Wait for that horrible sound, that snap. So, right, we've got more roots that can hydrate now. As I said, I don't want these soaking wet, so I do want some air around them. But if they're touching some damp moss, they should hydrate. So we'll see what happens, because I think this plant is not doing badly, but not doing as well as it could. So we'll see how it does now with that extra moisture. So I will put some RO water in that tray. Now, every now and again, this is going to need some feed, obviously. And to feed it, what I will do is drain the moss and then actually sit it in some water with some feed and allow that to be soaked into the roots. Then let it drain off and then basically rinse it with some RO water and put it back in its RO water, because I don't want the moss holding lots of feed, because that probably won't do the moss any good for a start. Moss would be used to just having rainwater. So there we go. I'm going to try growing it like that, and it's going to go up in an area where it gets a totally different type of light. It's brighter and it's more lit because of the sun coming through that window. Now, these can bloom on 6-inch plants. It never has for me, and I'm hoping the change in environment might actually trigger this to spike. I mean, I've been told by several people that theirs has bloomed on a plant of a similar size, so we'll see what we can do this season. So that's how that's going to be grown for a while until it objects, and we'll see how we go. So again, that's orchid number 2, Renanthera imschootiana, and flowers on it are gorgeous. It hasn't flowered for me, but I think I might have a picture. If I have, I'll put it up. And we'll come back in 2 months' time and see how it's doing. And what I would hope to see is these roots branching or with some growing tips. In other words, coming back into active growth. That's what I'd like to see, because they haven't grown for a very long time. They've just been sitting there with stalled tips, not in active growth, no branching and no new ones. So we'll see what happens. So there we go. We did this to this plant because I wanted to keep it in the bathroom where it would be warmer and brighter, because that bathroom window faces south, You know, it's the normal frosted glass type thing, but it gets direct sun, and that's very bright light. And without bright light, Renantheras won't bloom. I also wanted to, you have to excuse the rain, if I wait for the rain to stop, it'll be tomorrow. We put it in moss to try and keep it hydrated, but I didn't want it soaking wet all the time. So I've been allowing it to sort of dry off and then wetting it again. Unfortunately, although that's good for the plant, it's no good for the moss, because this is live moss. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to take this what was live moss out and discard it. That will also give us an opportunity to see what's underneath, if anything. What are these roots doing? Are they rotting? If they are, then they're too wet. They need to dry even better in between. But they're certainly well hydrated, no doubt about that. Yeah, good, they're not actually stuck to anything, so I can lift the plant out. Still got a bit of bark from when it was potted up that way. Right, so I'll discard this. I keep bin liners in here now to keep my rubbish in, because I'm fed up with it going all over the floor. You know, dead leaves, bits that I trim off, all that sort of thing. And I made a big puddle now, haven't I? Never mind. We can get most of that off. I mean, this does get wet on occasions, so it doesn't matter. Right, so we've discarded that. Now the idea, just as a matter of interest, as far as the plant is concerned, it has grown a little bit. Yeah, this leaf has actually extended, so it has actually grown a bit. But the idea now is to sort of put it back in where it was. This time trying to get it a bit more upright if I can. I can do that by tweaking where the roots are positioned, like so. Now I was hoping to see some growing root tips, which we haven't got yet. But what I'm going to do now is replace the moss with this moss. There's a good reason for that. This moss is already dead. Yeah? So if it dries out, it's not going to kill it, is it? It's already dead. But I want it light and fluffy. I want it fluffed up. I want air in here. And this will allow the roots to dry better in between. It'll still give the humidity around the plant, it'll still do that, and it'll still keep roots hydrated, but I've been trying to keep the moss alive, so I've been adding far too much water to the tray underneath. Now I won't need to, because this stuff wicks up a lot better. Yeah, so we've still got some air around some of the roots, we've still got the air coming in through the sides, yeah, but I won't need anywhere near as much water now. I'm going to reuse that water, just going to put a drop in and then drop that in. I picked this up this morning and I forgot I'd watered it yesterday and it was full up. Right, looking after Renantheras, brightest light you can without burning them, and they like to be warm, but they also like a difference between night and day temperatures. That doesn't mean they need to cool down at night, they just need to be a bit cooler at night. You don't need to freeze them, but they do like a differential. And apart from that, they're probably the easiest way to think of them in comparison to other orchids is they're like a vanda. They are a vandaceous type, they grow like a vanda, they push out aerial roots. The ideal situation would be that you soaked those roots on a daily basis in the morning and they'd be dry by late afternoon, and then you do it each day. But they don't need a lot of looking after, but if you can't do that high light, they won't bloom. Now I'm going to sneeze, am I? No, perhaps not. I'm not doing any more than looking after this in bright light and keeping it warmer by having it in the bathroom. That's all I'm doing. And by using this moss, the water will never be poured through the moss. It'll always be lifted up and the water will be poured in there and it will be stood in there to wick. So this will always stay light and fluffy. It will not compact, and it should keep the roots and the air around the plant moist. And that's all I can say about this at this time of year. We will see how it progresses. As I said, I'd like to see some activity on the roots, but none's happened yet. So we'll get it back up where it goes in the bathroom, and we'll revisit it in 2 months' time and see if there's any progress. Progress so far is next to nothing. It's not growing fast, they don't. It's not got any root activity, but nothing's dying on it. So, you know, what I've got is what I had back in February. The plant is in better condition, I would say, now than it was in February, because it's lost the cold. It stays a lot warmer in the bathroom. So there we go, that's that one. And we'll revisit this in 2 months' time and see if we've got any progress. Now, out of all the species of Renantheras, imschootiana is a cooler grower, relatively speaking. It just grows at higher elevations, so it can put up with lower temperatures than most of them, which is why I chose it. Right, the setup is sphagnum moss, and at the moment it's dust dry, and that's what I do. I let it get like that, and then all we do is fill the tray up like that. So we've now got water in the tray, and this type of moss wicks really nicely. So in a few hours' time it'll all be damp and most of that water in the tray will be gone, and then I'll just let it dry out again. So that's what it gets. Now, that water that just went in there had feed in it, so the roots are now getting fed. They'll take as much as they want. Now, it has grown a bit since last time. It's completed a leaf and started a new one. Very slow progress. And we have a new root tip that we didn't have last time. It's the only one, I've just checked. So I was expecting quite a few new root tips to start growing, but they're not. And no brand new roots and no sign of a spike. So that's the position we're in at the moment. It's alive, it's growing, and it seems to be putting up with this setup. So as far as the rest of the year is concerned, no change. It'll get a feed every second or third watering that I do, and that'll be followed by 1 or 2 pure water flushes effectively. When it gets a pure water flush, it's not really a flush, because any residual feed from the previous watering will still be there. It'll be in amongst the dry moss, so it reinvigorates it at a much weaker level, but it's not pure water as such. So that's that, and nothing much to do with this apart from keep my eye on the dryness, you know, and make sure it gets topped up and doesn't stay dry for, well, for more than a day really, 2 days most. And it's easy enough because obviously it's in the bathroom. Every time I go and stand in the bathroom, like men do, I'm looking at it. It's on the windowsill, so I can't possibly forget it, can I? So that's it. That's the progress, and the expectation is just more of the same. You know, it'd be nice to see some more root tips and some more roots, an actual bigger, better root system. But as far as growth is concerned, as long as it continues to grow and gain leaves, at some point hopefully it'll have enough strength to bloom. It's got the light now, and it obviously won't cool down anywhere near as much in the bathroom in the winter because of the heating. You know, I live in the house, I don't like getting freezing cold. So that's that. So last time we had 14 leaves and a new one just starting, and no real signs of root activity. There was, this little one here was a tiny little bud. So that's grown on, that's a brand new root, and down inside the moss is root activity. There are root tips, quite a few. So the roots are in active growth now, complete with a new one. And what we've got now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and a new one. So we've added a leaf or two. So it's growing slowly but surely, and that's all I can really hope for at the moment. I topped the tray up, which wicks up into the moss. Unfortunately, the two biggest roots, this one hasn't got any new growth on the end of it, and the new bit that's come out is not going to get down into the moss, and nor is this one. But there are other roots in the moss, so we're not rootless as such. Anyway, it's coming on, it's growing. Renantheras are warm to hot growers and bright light orchids. Now this lives in the bathroom on a south facing window with frosted glass. That is very bright light. There's also some heat generated through that glass, and when we get to the colder months and I start having the heating on and things like that, there is heating in the bathroom, so it should stop it getting too cold. And also in this house, when I have the heating on for me, that tends to be when I'm downstairs, and because of the design of the house, a lot of that heat goes straight up the flipping stairs into the bathroom, which is handy, I suppose. Anyway, so it's growing. I feed it relatively regularly, keep the moss just off damp, and then when I water it, it's soaking wet for a few days until a lot of it evaporates and the plant takes what it wants. And when it gets almost dry, sometimes it gets absolutely dry, then I make it wet again. And that's what I do. That's the progress. It's not dying, it hasn't lost any leaves, and it has got root activity. So that's all I can really hope for with that one. And we'll take a look in 2 months' time. But these are the benchmarks, really, what we can see. So there's this growth, this root here, this brand new root, and like I said, the number of leaves. So this leaf is not full size yet. This one is heading there. I doubt if that will get too much bigger. And then we have a new one to watch the progress of. So there we go. That's that one. Okay, so this orchid had a change of scenery as we went through the year. It started off in a basket, as in a more traditional shaped basket. It came out of there and went into this shaped basket with some live moss. That didn't do very well, so it got changed for the New Zealand moss. And since then, the only thing that I've changed is I've taken some of that moss out, because it was staying too wet. When I put the water in to wick up into the moss, it was like wet, and I only want it damp, really. I want it just enough to be able to hydrate the roots that are in it. So what's happened to this through the growing season? Well, some of the roots have rotted, but I could only cut that back to there because it's grown a new shoot. This is a new root, and this one has grown on since we last looked at it. This one's not doing very well at all, but this one has grown quite a few new sections of root down in the basket. The plant itself, last time, I don't know whether it was last time we looked at it, but one of the videos during this year, we decided that if we count the leaves, providing none drop off, we can see whether it's progressing or not. And we had 14 leaves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 pushing on, and a 16th starting. So it is growing, albeit slowly. Now I don't know whether we counted the leaves last time round. If we did, then in 2 months it's grown a new leaf and started another one. Now obviously the day lengths are going to reduce quite dramatically. Well, they already are. So this is going to go through the winter period, but any sunny days that we get, this will get some sunshine through that bathroom window, which is more than it would get here. And in addition to that, the temperature will be a bit better in the bathroom again than it would be here. So I'm hoping it will get through the winter, and then next year perhaps it'll progress enough that we might get a spike. I'm not holding out lots of hopes of getting this to bloom. and I might actually change it yet again. I might actually take it out of here and try a different method. But so far it's growing better like this than it ever has in any other of the sort of environments I've tried it in. Obviously in the previous place, that was the best place for it. It was warmer, much higher humidity, and the ability to give it really bright light. So anyway, it's made it to the end of the year. Providing it makes it through winter, it should progress again next year and grow on. And at some point, maybe it'll have enough strength to bloom. But I'm just pleased, you know, given that the other two were failures. I think I started with 4. One failed very quickly, and the other 2 didn't do too well. I think one went to somebody else and one rotted. I can't remember. But this is the only one that seems to have hung in there and shown signs of progress. So an elongated root, a new root, and some progress with some roots down in the moss. So there we go. That's orchid number 5. Sorry, orchid number 2. Come on, brain. Video number 5, and that's the final video for this orchid for the season. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed these, the way they're working, and you know, you've got a playlist with all of the videos, all 5 of them. So if you had a particular interest in that orchid or one similar to it, you could watch the set and see the progress and the comments as we go through the season, which was the idea. So yeah, thanks for dropping by. See you next time.